My husband didn't defend me and it's making me want to leave him. A few weeks ago, we were in a road rage incident where we cut someone off in traffic and it pissed the other driver off. The left lane was merging into us and the car that was meant to give way to us wasn't slowing down, so we had no choice but to cut off the person to our right or we would have collided with the person merging to our left. That car followed us and tailgated us, beeping its horn, and my husband kept trying to give the car room to go around us, but the car would slow down with us and speed up with us, and it followed us almost close to our house. I'm 7 months pregnant, and with this car following us, I didn't want a mysterious driver knowing where we live, so we pulled into the gas station instead. I got out and the man got out of the car that was following us, and my husband stayed in the car. I told the man what happened and why we needed to cut him off, but he wouldn't calm down and instead was shouting and swearing, telling me I should learn to drive. When I told him it wasn't me driving but my husband, he called my husband a coward and a bitch. So I said it really was all we could do and apologized, but he slapped me and started to yell louder. A man had pulled up to a pump during all this and came over to help me and told the guy to piss off or we would call the police. I was stunned because I'd just been slapped by a stranger and I was in hysterics. My husband just sat in the car during this whole ordeal. He didn't get out even when the man had gone. I got back in the car and went home and I didn't say a word. My husband just looked guilty, but he didn't say anything. Now I don't even want to look at him. He can't even back me up in an argument. I'm pregnant with his child and he can't help me.
Am I the asshole for telling my girlfriend that she's not allowed to tell my daughter what to do? I've been with my girlfriend for 3 years, but she only moved in with me 6 months ago. I'm a widower, so I wanted to make sure that this was serious before I was okay with moving her in with me and my daughter. Generally, the two of them get along pretty well, and I told my girlfriend at the very beginning of our relationship I wasn't looking for a stepmom for my daughter. She's 16 and honestly old enough that she doesn't need a new mom. Well, last weekend, I went camping with one of my mates for 2 days, and my girlfriend stayed home with my daughter. I knew my daughter was going to a party on Saturday, and I already agreed to it. Am I the asshole for telling my girlfriend she's not allowed to tell my daughter what to do? Last weekend, I went camping with one of my mates for 2 days, and my girlfriend stayed home with my daughter. I knew my daughter was going to a party on Saturday, and I already agreed to it. But when I came back from my camping trip, my daughter complained that my girlfriend told her she had to wash off her makeup and do one that's less provocative before she could leave the house. I got angry at my girlfriend and said she wasn't allowed to order my daughter around and she wasn't allowed to prevent her from doing anything I already agreed to. We had a huge fight and since then we barely talked. Am I wrong?
Around the time the first Twilight movie came out, I was just existing in my house, and my father came up to me very quickly and he said, "Hey, you've read every single one of those Twilight books, right?" And I said, "Yeah, but you don't need to be blurting that out so loud. People don't need to know." And he said, "Yeah, but you're going to want to see the movie eventually, right?" And I said, "Yeah, eventually." And he said, "Oh, perfect. There's a showing in 20 minutes. Grab your coat. Let's go." And I said, "You're going to go see Twilight with me?" And he said, "Oh, no. I'm going to drop you off to see Twilight. And you can see it by yourself." And I was like, "Oh, no, thank you. I don't want to see it that bad." And he was like, "No, I want you to see it. It'll be fun. Come on, I'll buy your ticket. Let's go. Let's go. Grab your coat." And he was really excited about it. And so I was like, "Okay, I guess." And I went to go see Twilight by myself. He dropped me off, he bought me a ticket, and then he picked me up afterwards. And at the time, I thought, wow, that is so sweet of my dad that he knew that Twilight was like a big thing with the kids at the time, and he made sure I saw it. But I was just thinking about that recently, and I was like, wait a second. Because now that I'm reliving the memory as a jaded, untrusting adult, what the hell happened at my house that night that he needed me gone? That was not normal behavior. That was not normal behavior. Would have been if I said, "Hey dad, I would like to go to the movies," and he said, "Go clean the kitchen," and ask me again. That would have been normal. But he looked up movie times and was like, "Let's go." When I was still a little kid, our cousins came over to have a campfire at our house, but then all the little kids got sent to bed early. And for some reason, this upset our youngest cousin, Elisa, the most. And so while we were all inside having our little kid slumber party, Elisa was just sitting by the window watching the big kids outside and narrating everything that was going on. And we weren't really paying attention to her, but we could still hear her in the back of the room saying, "I wish I was out there with them. Because now they're laughing, and now they're roasting marshmallows, and now Jamie's marshmallow is on fire, and now Jamie's face is on fire." And we all went, "Whoa, wait, what? Jamie's face is on fire?" And she said, "Yeah, Jamie's face is on fire." She was so nonchalant about it. And what had happened was Jamie pulled her marshmallow up to her face to blow it out, but she did it too fast, so the marshmallow flung onto her face. And it's not funny. It's not funny.
6 years ago, I switched my wife's cat with a more well-behaved lookalike. She had an all-black cat that was extremely aggressive. It scratched everyone, hissed at everyone, and didn't use its litter box half the time. My wife insisted she could get it to behave better. One week, she went out of town to visit her family, and I was supposed to go to her apartment and feed it. The first night I went over, it scratched the shit out of my arm. I joked to the cat that it's not special and I'll replace it if it scratches again. The joke stuck with me until I had thought about it enough that it wasn't a joke. The next morning, I went to the local animal shelter. I found an identical cat that was already litter box trained and acclimated to people, but was a little skittish. But overall, it was a lot friendlier and better behaved, and the skittishness would help it resemble the original cat. So I adopted it, took it to my wife's apartment, settled it in, then drove her original cat to an animal shelter a town over. I was paranoid my wife would find out if I took it to a local one. It's been 6 years since then. We got married 4 years ago. We still have the swapped cat, and it answers to the original cat's name. My wife knows nothing. She loves this cat and brags about how much better behaved it is. But every time I see it, I feel like a total piece of shit. That's because you are. But you can't tell her now, it's been too long and she will literally divorce your ass. So just stay quiet. Do you guys disagree? Do you guys think you should tell her? I wouldn't. It's like one of those kind of things where it's like, it's going to do more harm than good. Because for me, if I was with a dude and he was shitting on my cat and I'm like, no, I can take care of it. I can make it well behaved. And he's like, no, you can't. And 6 years pass. I'm like, haha, look, the cat's well behaved. I told you I could do it. And I find out you did this. Every time I bragged about the cat's behavior, you're probably snickering and being like, little do you know, I switched that shit out and it would just destroy me. And I would feel stupid. So just don't say anything. Am I wrong for losing it on my fiance for disinviting my stepsister from our wedding? I'm gonna keep it short. I, female 25, am getting married to my fiance next month. We've had no issues with the wedding planning except the guest list. Context: I have a large family. I have 2 stepsisters, 18, 20, and a biological brother, 27, and also a biological sister, 30. My fiance argued that the guest list should be cut short and suggested I only invite my immediate family. I asked him to elaborate, and he suggested excluding my stepsisters. I said no and got upset with him for implying that they're not family, and he said, well, this wasn't what I meant. I was just speaking from a technical angle, especially since I didn't include them in my wedding party like maid of honor and bridesmaids. So he thought they were unneeded, but I said that they were wanted and will always be wanted and included by me. Well, days ago, my stepsisters called me saying my fiance canceled the invitations and told them some lie about changing wedding location and telling them they won't be able to come. I was fuming. I went home and started screaming at him. He asked that I hear him out, then explained he had no choice since we were required to shorten the list and just did my dirty work for me since I obviously was just looking at the situation from an emotional angle and couldn't bring myself to disinvite my stepsisters myself. I called him a hypocrite because he invited almost 6 of his family friends who, as far as I know, aren't immediate family. I told him he hurt my stepsisters by going behind my back and excluding them from my wedding, which they've been excited about. He got up from the couch and yelled that it's our wedding, so my stepsisters' feelings aren't really that relevant compared to his, and he called me controlling for wanting my way or the highway. He took his phone and stormed off to see his friends. Some of his friends called to scold me for how I'm treating their brother, and then went on about how rude I was to suggest that their brother disinvite them from the wedding just because I don't like them and called it a you problem. My future mother-in-law called and is wanting to speak to me. He probably told her what's going on and she's probably going to ask that I apologize for yelling. So, oh my god, please don't marry this dude. What the heck? You guys aren't even married. Look how much he's gaslighting you. Get out of here.
Am I the asshole for missing an actual emergency because I turned my phone off to avoid my wife? My best friend, 31 male, and I, 27 male, have a tradition of taking a yearly weekend trip together that's phone-free. We explore the city and stay in a suite so we're not completely disconnected. This was the first trip since my wife and I moved in together, got engaged, or got married. But we were dating for the last 2 years worth of trips and she seemed fine with it. I know it's different when you're married, but I just didn't expect the 180 in behavior. My wife demanded I take my phone in case she needed to get a hold of me, even though my friend was gonna have his phone and she had his number. Am I the asshole for missing an actual emergency because I turned off my phone to avoid my wife? I let her know when I arrived, and immediately after that, she was texting me and asking how things were. Then again, asking me another question when I didn't respond to the first one. I eventually muted the conversation and she called me a few hours later asking why I didn't respond. I reiterated that this is a no phone weekend and kept the call short. She kept calling me and my friends, so we shut our phones off for the rest of the weekend. When I got back, my wife was furious because her sister ended up getting in a car accident and she said I wasn't there for her. Am I the asshole for giving my mother-in-law a copy of her own house key when she asked to get a copy of mine? My husband and I recently bought a new home together. His mom has started pestering us for a copy of the key in case of emergencies. I tried to explain to her our house rule, which is only residents of the house get a key. She proceeded to keep complaining and even got the family involved. And last week she demanded a copy of the key sent to her. So instead, I decided to go grab the copy of her key. I grabbed the copy of her house that my husband was keeping for years and sent it to her, along with a note.